Hello, I'm John Cunningham, and welcome to our new show, Small Stocks, Big Money. For those of you new to the show, RedChip Companies is an investor relations, media, and research firm focused on emerging growth companies. Our unique platform combines global multimedia with traditional investor relations, reaching investors around the world. Now, today's show features interviews with executives of two public companies. First up is ASP Isotopes, stock symbol ASPI on the NASDAQ. ASP Isotopes is an emerging leader in isotope enrichment technology with wide application potential across a variety of industries. The company expects to be a leading supplier of non-nuclear enriched isotopes, generating over $150 million in EBITDA per annum by 2028. And they've already secured multiple long-term supply agreements with customers globally. We'll learn more when we speak with the CEO later in the show. Up next is Soligenix, stock symbol SNGX on the NASDAQ. Soligenix is a late-stage biopharmaceutical company developing innovative treatments for rare diseases with unmet medical needs. The company's primary focus is on its specialized biotherapeutics business segment, which is responsible for the development of Hybrite, a novel treatment for T-cell lymphoma. The company has successfully completed a phase 3 study for Hybrite and is now negotiating a confirmatory phase 3 pivotal study design with the FDA. We'll learn more when we speak with the president and CEO later in the show. Now, before we get to our first interview, our quote of the week, it comes from the book Small Stocks, Big Money. You can be happy with the companies you own, but you may not be happy with their stock performance. If you know what you're investing in and you're patient, you'll have a day when the market recognizes the value, but that may not be today or tomorrow. This quote comes from Byron Roth, CEO of Roth Capital, featured in Chapter 7 of Small Stocks, Big Money. This is a book of exclusive interviews with some of the biggest players in the microcap space. Get a digital copy on Amazon today for just $18. Quick question. Are you interested in gaining a deeper understanding of the companies featured on Small Stocks, Big Money? If so, be sure to join us for our exclusive investor webinars. This is your opportunity to gain an in-depth look at our featured companies and where you can speak directly to management, giving you tremendous insights straight from the source. Visit redchip.com/events for a full calendar of upcoming webinars and register today to secure your spot at the next event. Now let's get started with our first interview today with ASP Isotopes.
Today we have Paul Mann, CEO of ASP Isotopes, trading on the NASDAQ under the ticker ASPI. Paul, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be back.
ASP Isotopes is commercializing proven and proprietary technology for manufacturing a diverse range of isotopes to meet growing demand in nuclear medicine and green energy. For viewers new to the story, Paul, why is isotope demand increasing, and how is ASP Isotopes uniquely positioned to supply isotopes to meet this demand?
So right now we have strong demand for isotopes as well as supply side pressure, which puts us in a pretty unique position in history. In terms of the supply side, 85% of stable isotopes for healthcare come from Russia, remaining 15% from Europe. So there is no domestic US producer of these types of stable isotopes. Looking at critical parts of the infrastructure in the United States, isotopes as lithium-7 are required to keep nuclear power stations operational. 100% of lithium-7 comes from Russia. The USA imports about 90% of its enriched uranium for nuclear power. So there's a real supply-side shortage of isotopes and a supply-side pressure. At the same time, we see good demand growth as well. Healthcare applications for isotopes have traditionally grown at GDP plus a few points, and I wouldn't expect that to change anytime soon. And there are many new uses for isotopes emerging, such as silicon-28 for quantum computing and artificial intelligence, new types of green energy, new uses for healthcare and oncology treatments. So lots of interesting new growth areas. At the same time, we're seeing supply-side pressure. What's interesting about ASPI is that we have a unique technology that allows us to enrich isotopes in a very cheap, efficient fashion. Our cost of building a plant is much lower than traditional centrifuges. We can do it more quickly, and we have a lot of interest from both companies and governments who need isotopes they can't get supply of right now. So it's a great. We're very excited by the future and the opportunity to have in front of us.
Paul, how big do you estimate the market opportunity is for isotopes?
Yeah, that's a bit like asking, how big is a plate of food? It depends on whose plate of food it is. But, for something like HALEU, so high assay low enriched uranium, we've had interest in over $30 billion of product from just 2 customers. And we're talking to more. So perhaps actually the ultimate demand over a number of years is even bigger than that. But something like carbon-14, the contract we signed with a Canadian customer there is for a minimum take or pay of just $2.5 million a year, and perhaps the market is twice that size. So it really depends. The size of each market depends upon which exact isotope we're looking at. And what's exciting about the opportunity here, the opportunity set we have in front of us here, is that there really is so little competition, and we have a long list of companies that are requesting isotopes from us. So we've got many years of growth ahead of us. It's really very exciting.
ASP Isotopes currently has 2 plants in South Africa that are expected to enter commercial production in the coming months. What can you tell us about these facilities, and why South Africa?
Yeah, so South Africa has actually got a long history in the enrichment industry, in the nuclear industry. During the apartheid years, the country enriched its own uranium, both for weapons and for nuclear fuel. South Africa changed a lot during the early 1990s. The country obviously saw a positive change in its political environment, and the country exited its enrichment industry. It closed down its weapons program. The country joined the International Atomic Energy Agency. They became signatories of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. And so our scientists who grew up in that industry started to look for other ways to enrich isotopes for more peaceful applications, such as healthcare and other advanced technologies. So we have 2 plants in South Africa. We acquired them both during essentially a bankruptcy process in South Africa about 2 years ago. The first is a quite small plant that'll produce the world's demand of carbon-14. That'll go into production late this year, early next year. And that plant's entirely sold out to a Canadian customer. And the second plant's a lot bigger. That can produce isotopes such as molybdenum-100 and silicon-28. And again, that'll be producing isotopes early part of next year. We've signed 2 contracts for production from that facility.
Paul, you recently announced the formation of Quantum Leap Energy, a new subsidiary focusing on the future needs for nuclear fuels. Talk to us about this subsidiary and what nuclear fuels you intend to produce.
Yeah, so the world has a challenging equation to solve over the next 30 years. Somehow we have to double electricity production whilst keeping carbon emissions neutral or flat. Wind and solar are great when you've got wind and sun, but when you haven't got wind and sun, they're kind of a problem. In our opinion, and I think most countries are coming to this view as well, nuclear power is the answer to a green, environmentally friendly baseload for most countries. In our opinion, and I think most other people's view, small modular reactors are the future for nuclear energy. This is a bit like the Ford Model T of motor cars into nuclear engineering. It brings production line economics to an industry and can collapse the cost dramatically. The benefits of an SMR is that almost anyone in the world can have access to very cheap, environmentally friendly energy. This is really important because if we're going to transform the world to a greener, low carbon footprint, that green energy has to trade at a discount to hydrocarbon energy. You can't go to emerging markets and ask emerging market citizens to pay a premium for green energy. It's not going to work. And historically, green energy is traded at a premium to hydrocarbon-based energy. And what we're excited about is being able to produce nuclear fuels that will allow energy in the future, green energy, to trade at a discount to hydrocarbon-based energy. So we've been talking to a lot of SMR companies about their needs for nuclear fuels over the last 18 months. We're talking to 4 or 5 pretty big ones in the United States. We've signed a memorandum of understanding with a very large SMR company to build a plant that can produce HALEU, high-assay low-enriched uranium. And that's what these companies need to produce the nuclear power. And right now, there is no Western producer of commercial quantities of HALEU. And so that's our goal over the next several years, is to become the leading supplier of HALEU. The other fuel we're looking at is lithium-6 and lithium-7. Lithium-6 is going to be required for nuclear fusion. And again, there's no Western producer of lithium-6 right now.
Paul, there are many people out there that think wind and solar are the future for green energy and not nuclear. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the future requires a combination of approaches. Wind and solar is great when you have wind and you have sun, but in some parts of the world or some countries, you simply can't rely on those two forms of green energy, particularly those in the northern and southern latitudes where you have long nights in the winter and long days in the summer. Some countries simply don't have enough wind to power the country. Some countries are looking at tidal power as well. So some countries have got strong tides, others don't. So listen, I think the future requires all of those approaches. But certainly a lot of countries are focusing on nuclear. And we agree that for countries that can't benefit from solar and wind, nuclear is the way forward.
Paul, we get a lot of questions here at RedChip about the cash position of ASP Isotopes. Talk to us about that for a moment.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so we actually just raised recently, in fact this week, a little over $9 million. We actually had a reverse inquiry from a group of nuclear/uranium clean energy investors who wanted to invest in the company and couldn't find the liquidity in the marketplace. So I think our 10Q said we finished June with about $3 million of cash in the balance sheet. We've just raised another 9. In September, we actually received our first prepayment from a customer to secure deliveries in 2024. So we feel our balance sheet's really pretty strong right now, plenty of runway. We don't spend much money as a company. And as we look forward to 2024, we've signed 3 contracts that should start bringing in substantial amounts of free cash flow. The first is for carbon-14. That's a minimum take-or-pay of $2.5 million a year, which is supported by a bank letter of guarantee. We signed a $9 million agreement with a US customer for a highly enriched metal. Then we have a customer in China that would like up to $27 million of molybdenum-100. And we're still talking to a couple of customers who may well end up supplying in 2024. So we feel in a really strong position right now with a balance sheet, plenty of cash on it, 2 plants that are pretty much ready to go, and a long list of customers wanting product next year.
Now, Paul, you've been touching on this before, but I want to know more. How is your quantum enrichment technology different from other enrichment methods?
So our quantum enrichment technology uses a laser to excite certain isotopes and extract them out of the mixture, as it were. The benefits of our approach is that we have substantially lower capex relative to a traditional centrifuge. We're talking tens of millions of dollars rather than billions of dollars. And it's a very effective way of enriching small quantities of highly specialized products. So centrifuges are great at producing thousands of metric tons a year of very commoditized products. But our laser approach is better at producing maybe tens of tons of very specialist products a year. And that's one of the reasons why SMR companies or nuclear companies are interested in investing in the technology, because the return on capital is substantially higher than that in a traditional centrifuge, which is typically billions of dollars for a few $1 million of free cash flow.
Paul, it goes without saying that management is key to any company, and especially a smaller cap company. What can you tell us about some of the key players on your team?
We've been very lucky to inherit a great group of scientists in South Africa. We've got about 50 employees now in South Africa, about 7 PhDs. In fact, one of our members has 2 PhDs, one in chemistry and one in physics. About 10 advanced degrees of chemical engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers. So when you have that kind of technical capability, that allows us to do some great science and great engineering, and that's really what's allowed us to build these 2 plants so quickly. We've got a great board of directors as well, a very diverse board of directors as well, which is very supportive, and they understand the science too. So, we've been fortunate enough to be able to hire great people and retain them.
Paul, we've been talking a lot here about your great company. Let's wrap it all up now into an essential value proposition for our viewers out there. Why should they pay attention to ASP Isotopes right now?
We're at a significant inflection point in the company as we gear up to first production and free cash flow next year. We've got a long list of opportunities ahead of us, not a lot of competition competing for those opportunities. And so it's really exciting to be involved in that industry. As I look forward to 12, 18, 24 months' time, I'd like to think we have good free cash flow coming from our 2 plants in South Africa. We're building plants in a new geography with low-cost green energy, such as Iceland, and we're making good progress towards producing nuclear fuels for the future. So an exciting next 12, 24 months ahead of us. I hope people can join us on that journey.
It is a fascinating story, Paul. Thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you for having me.
Now let's move on to our next interview today with Soligenix.
Hello there. Today we have Dr. Chris Shaber, CEO of Soligenix, which trades on the NASDAQ under the ticker symbol SNGX. Dr. Shaber, thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
For viewers brand new to the story, Chris, give us a brief overview of Soligenix.
Soligenix is a late clinical stage biopharmaceutical company focused on developing and commercializing products to treat rare diseases and areas of unmet medical need.
Chris, how big are the market opportunities for the programs you currently have in development?
Across our rare disease pipeline, approximately $2 billion annually. If we focus on some of our lead programs like Hybrid for cutaneous T-cell lymphoma, which is a rare and chronic cancer, in excess of $250 million worldwide, and a lot of that $2 billion is driven by the follow-on indication for the active ingredient Hybrid, that's synthetic hypericin, in which we're also developing it in psoriasis, which is in excess of $1 billion market opportunity.
You just mentioned psoriasis. Let's talk about your recently expanded phase 2 study in that disease. What are some upcoming milestones investors can expect from this program?
You're correct. We had some promising results that we announced earlier in the year on our initial 5 patients. It's a phase 2A study where we're looking to learn more about the drug administration as well as the disease indication of psoriasis in which we're treating. The first 5 was positive. We've now expanded that with an additional 5 patients and expect the results on the additional 5 before the end of the year. So by the end of the year here, we're going to have some additional data around mild to moderate psoriasis with synthetic hypericin.
Soligenix previously reported positive phase 3 results for Hybrid in early-stage cutaneous T-cell lymphoma, and discussions are currently underway with the FDA for a second confirmatory phase 3 study. Chris, what can you tell us about this program?
First, as I noted earlier, cutaneous T-cell lymphoma is a rare and chronic cancer, and with our therapy Hybrid, we treat skin lesions, which are those cancerous lesions that are cutaneous T-cell lymphoma throughout the body, and we shrink, and we demonstrate we could shrink those lesions. As you noted, we had a positive phase 3 study where we achieved our primary endpoint in the first study, and we're now in active discussions with the FDA on the design of a confirmatory phase 3 study, and hope to have that final protocol soon. I will say, we're still in those discussions, so I'm hesitant on giving details, but they are advanced, and I hope to be able to provide update on the program before the end of the year and have a clear path forward. But obviously, having a first positive phase 3 study showing the biologic activity of the drug in the disease is very important, especially in late-stage clinical studies. And we are now working with both the FDA and our clinicians and key opinion leaders to really lock this down and execute on the second study. So I'll have more information a little bit later in the year on this.
Chris, management, of course, is key to the success of smaller cap companies. Who are some of the key players on your team?
You're absolutely correct, Craig. And I think it's not only management, it's boards, right? I think the board is also very critical to helping advance and grow and accelerate a company in its pipeline. For us, from a management perspective, all of my managing of many years of biotech experience, building, growing biotech companies, a number of individuals I've taken with me from one successful company to Soligenix here to do it again. And that's what we're doing with Highbright, some of our other programs, most notably my chief medical officer, my head of regulatory affairs, the person that interacts with the FDA, but also on the board side, very important. It's good to have good experience on the board level. And here we not only have a productive board, but experience in drug development, finance, business development, commercialization in rare disease setting. Most notably, Dr. Jerry Zeldis was the chief medical officer for Celgene Corporation for many years before retiring, is now on my board. And we have Miss Diane Parks and Mr. Greg LaPointe, who spent many years commercializing therapies in the rare disease setting. So I think the overall strength of management and board really help advance a company to hopefully be successful.
In summary, what is the essential value proposition? Why should investors take an interest in Soligenix today?
I think it really comes down to 5 key points, right? It's the robust, de-risked, late-stage pipeline with multiple shots on goal, with our lead candidate that's already achieved statistical significance in its primary endpoint in a phase 3 study, and we're looking to conduct that second confirmatory study. A shorter time horizon. Drug development typically takes 10, 12, 15 years. We're at the latter part of that 10 to 12-year development timeline with multiple milestones or value drivers through the next 6, 12, 18 months. We have significant market potential in areas of unmet medical need where patients and clinicians need approved therapies. We're funded into the fourth quarter of 2024, which includes non-dilutive grant funding from the U.S. government, which is very important in helping us advance our pipeline, and the potential for business development opportunities, such as partnerships and M&A.
You make a very persuasive argument, Chris. Thank you for being with us today.
Oh, my pleasure, Craig. Thank you.
Now let's recap the companies you met today. First, you met ASP Isotopes, stock symbol ASPI on the NASDAQ. ASP Isotopes is currently preparing to open its first 2 facilities in South Africa to address significant interest from potential customers, with supply agreements already exceeding 100% of the capacity of the first plant. The company intends to enter into take-or-pay style offtake agreements with customers, and by 2028, ASP Isotopes expects to be a leading supplier of non-nuclear enriched isotopes, generating over $150 million in EBITDA per annum. Learn more by visiting aspiinfo.com. Then you met Soligenix, stock symbol SNGX on the NASDAQ. Soligenix has a robust pipeline of multiple fast-track and orphan-designated products, and they're targeting commercial opportunities totaling more than $2 billion. With late-stage clinical assets, ongoing collaborations, non-dilutive funding, and experienced management, Soligenix is ideally positioned for strong returns. For more information, please visit SNGXinfo.com. In closing, remember, while small caps can provide significant gains, you must be prepared for the downside. Small cap stocks are among the most volatile asset class. Some of the companies featured on this show are RedChip client companies, and we may own stock in these companies. So please always read our disclosures at redchip.com. Thanks for being with us today. We'll see you next week with some new exciting emerging growth company.
Isotopes. They're not just tiny particles. They are the unsung heroes of modern society with a staggering range of applications. From transforming healthcare to powering space exploration, isotopes play a fundamental role in our daily lives. Despite their widespread use and critical importance, isotope production is dominated by only a few players globally, mainly Russia and China. But that's about to change. Enter ASP Isotopes, a company on a mission to transform the isotope industry utilizing revolutionary technology developed in South Africa. Their technology enriches isotopes of elements or molecules with low atomic masses, which traditional methods like centrifuges can't handle. ASP Isotopes, which IPO'd on NASDAQ in late 2022, is initially focusing on commercializing molybdenum-100, a potential game-changer for the diagnostic imaging market, and carbon-14, an essential radiolabel for drug discovery and pharmacokinetics. In Q1 2023, they completed cold commissioning of their first manufacturing plant and have already signed a memorandum of understanding with a North American customer for the entire offtake of the facility. ASP Isotopes intends to enter into additional take-or-pay style offtake agreements with customers, and by 2028, it expects to be a leading supplier of non-nuclear enriched isotopes, generating over $150 million in EBITDA per annum. In addition to its MOU with a North American customer, ASP Isotopes secured a 25-year supply agreement valued at up to $27 million per annum to supply highly enriched molybdenum-100 to the Beijing Research Institute of Chemical Engineering Metallurgy. ASP Isotopes technology is a low-capital cost, environmentally friendly method of isotope production. It's a game-changer, harvesting and enriching a natural mix of isotopes, producing zero waste without the need for nuclear reactor byproducts. With planned phase-outs of old research nuclear reactors and geopolitical uncertainties, there's a significant opportunity for ASP Isotopes to fill the gap in the global supply. Join ASP Isotopes and become part of the future of healthcare and scientific advancement. Don't just watch this revolution unfold, be a part of it. Learn more at aspiinfo.com or call 1-800-RedChip.